So this is the topic for today, as Jonathan introduced, why cyber resilience is vital for manufacturing. So let me jump into this. Yeah, maybe in short introduction, as Jonathan already told, it's about 16 plus years into IT industry. I worked across different sectors within manufacturing again. When I say manufacturing, I worked across pharma industry, automobile, and now currently working with food and beverage industry. So this is how my experience works about, and I've worked across different domains, be it endpoint, network, application, governance. So cloud security. So this is where I worked on hands-on. So I know the in and outs of those domains. Pretty been active on LinkedIn and the other global forums that have been listed here. I've also done few certifications throughout my career, and currently I'm working with Tetra Pak India. It's again one of a global name within food and beverage industry where I'm working as a senior OT security architect. Moving on to my next screen. Just a short disclaimer. The opinions are my own and not the views of my employer, which I had been affiliated now or in my past career. The material and information contained in my presentation is for information purpose only. So just disclaimer, because yeah, we all know, right? We working for various different organizations. We need to have this kind of disclaimers very clearly put it across. So let's begin this short story. So I believe we Indians are good in storytelling, and that's what I have learned from my past. I've heard a lot of stories from my grandmothers and nannies, and one thing that I clearly see that yes, these stories remain into our memories for a very longer time. And someone tells if you a story, I believe these stories then weaves into your mind, and then there are very takeaways that you can take from all these stories. So this is the short agenda for today. I will be just highlighting few key things from an facts and figures. Then I will be drilling down into the story that we have it for today. A recap of the entire incident that happened in my past career. I will be just talking about that. A brief of the cyber sub forensic analysis that was being carried out. Few gaps that were being we can say highlighted into that entire incident. I believe that would be common across your organizations also. And then a few lessons learned that you can take away from this entire sessions that can be helpful. So maybe before we jump into that story, if you can have the first poll, please. So feel free, guys, to put it across your responses. Hope you are able to see the poll. Be happy to hear your responses before we jump into the story. Just take another minute before we close the poll. So in case of any ICS incident into your organization, who is contacted after detection? Just to understand from an audience perspective, the various different teams that get involved. So can we have the poll answers, please? Yeah, so rightly said, it's again depends upon how organizations are dealing with these teams. It can be system integrators, that's the majority here that I can clearly see. And then it can be also the IT security teams within an organization. Yep. Let's jump into our story. We can close the poll. Yeah, so let's understand why cyber resilience is vital for manufacturing. I've just taken an image for you guys. I believe this will be common across organizations. Many organizations say that they are isolated, they are not connected to the cloud, but it's one of the other way that you're connected to the cloud. It may be your vendor that connects to your environment, maybe for fetching some data from an analytics perspective, or it may be the common thing that I've seen across doing risk assessments within India is that within India, we have state governments having their own systems from an monitoring what is exactly going out of an kind of a factory or a manufacturing plant to capture those. And one of the common concerns that I observed is that these systems are again no controls have been put in place. They are part of your own shop floors. So if you haven't seen those kind of systems, I would clearly see this. Yes, there are a lot of concerns to these systems and you can have a look at that, because one of the common risk assessment concern that I've seen across organizations doing risk assessment is this particular system, which is being managed by the state governments, which have been put it into your organizations to monitor what exactly from a gases perspective or what exactly is going on into the environment. And these systems are kind of an would be kind of an key for the threat actors to get into your organization. So if you haven't seen these kind of systems, if you don't have that visibility, I would urge you guys to have that visibility. So that is the only reason to say that uh, cloud, we cannot deny saying that we are not connected to cloud or we are isolated to the cloud. Some or the other way, your shop floor is definitely connected to cloud. It may be the enterprise cloud that you have, or it may be the vendor's cloud, which is fetching some data from your shop floor. So let's jump on to the next slide. So a few key highlights. I believe again, from a management perspective, I believe this is something that has been key to the management also when we show this kind of an statistics to the management. So I will just focus on the last layer here. Key ransomware findings. I've just taken it from the Drago's recent report that was been published for this year. If you clearly see 87% of increase in ransomware attacks across manufacturing organizations, and that is a kind of a clear key concern where we say that when our shop floors are not we can say segmented, I would rightly say that, because if you see the greenfield versus the brownfield projects, greenfields, it's easy to have those network segmentation, granular network segmentation to be put in place. But what about the brownfields? It's not that easy to stop a current production system and to have those granular network segmentations to be put in place. And again, for those kind of systems, ransomware would be kind of a common concern across those organizations. If you see the second thing here, 60% more of ransomware groups targeting, we can say the IT/OT sector. So it's a clear concern, or the likelihood of these attacks happening in the near future is also again high. So we cannot deny that these attacks would not happen to my organization. It's just a matter of time that this kind of an attacks would also happen to your organization. Going on to my next slide. Again, drill down into how exactly ransomware has been impacting the manufacturing sector as a whole. So if you see on the left hand side, clear few statistics: 638 manufacturing firms that were being hit by these attacks. I believe this is for last year, which Dragos has put it across 2024. And if you see on the right hand side, clearly bifurcation of different industries. And I've been now coming from a food and beverage industry. Earlier, we were also thinking that yes, why would someone or a threat actor attack and food and beverage industry? But now, if you see the clear trends that are coming out, those kind of an attacks are happening to every organization. It's just a matter of time that if you do not have your well-placed defenses in place, this kind of an attacks will happen to your organization also. Now let's talk about the five top risks to any manufacturing firms across. Ransomware, we already talked about. Social engineering attacks. I believe this is where every organization, the first initial phase of an attack starts. I'll be also talking that into my case study, into the story that I would be telling, how social engineering was used to get into an organization and what kind of an impact it has caused. Supply chain attack. I believe this has clearly seen an increase in the last 1.5 years. I can clearly see for this year and the next year, supply chain attacks would really have an increase. And it can be nation-sponsored attacks. Attackers are also using these kind of technologies now to attack every organization. The recent one that was into the limelight, not sure whether you guys have heard that, SAP is now being targeted, and in its clear case of nation-sponsored attackers, it was been said that it were Chinese attackers behind this particular attack, specifically targeting the SAP exploits on the NetWeaver kind of an application that SAP has. So clear focus, and SAP is again kind of a common application used across our manufacturing shop floors also. Though we say it's been there at level 4 and above the enterprise level, but it clearly has a connection down the levels. So if an attack happens to an SAP within an organization, it will really have a business impact across your organization. Insider threat attack, it's again something that has been neglected, but I clearly see that also as a concern, because insiders can also cause those kind of an attacks. And then last but not the least, denial of service in today's world into manufacturing, mostly the exposed assets that have been connected to the internet, they are likely to face this kind of an attacks. So now let's jump on to a short story or the case study that I have today. On the left hand side of mine, Dr. Reddy, I've just highlighted a few things in yellow so that you can correlate this story. Dr. Reddy, this was the time. So let me give in short background. So this was the time in 2020 when COVID was on high, right? And every part of the world was being affected, and people were been trying to find out medicines for this, and all these pharmaceutical firms across the globe are working on to make those remediations or make those medicines that can be easily available to the various different peoples of the country. Again, Dr. Reddy, one of the top five names within Indian pharmaceutical and global. This was the one that got attacked. I would really like you guys to focus on the dates here. October 2020, 22nd October was the date when Dr. Reddy got hit with a similar ransomware attack. And if you go on the right hand side, this was the organization that I was working. We literally had an attack 1 week after that. So after 22nd of October, it was 29th of October, if I'm not wrong. That was the date that when we also got hit by this particular attack. To give a short background of this organization that I was working, having 16 plus manufacturing plants across the globe. Again, it was a very high time, production high time for the people, because yes, a lot of threat actors were been targeting this particular sector due to this clear concern of ransom getting paid by this organization. So this was the particular organization that I was working, which got hit on 29th of October. Now let's jump into that analysis part. So I still remember this date today also. It was, as I said, maybe 29th of October, midnight, that this attack started. So if you see the clear timelines, 22nd October, this was the date when Dr. Reddy, one of the top names, got hit. And 29th of October, midnight, we started. I just remember I got a call around 3:30 early morning time, Friday. It was early Friday morning, and initial call, as we usually, I've been also looking after the SOC operations, so that call was not been taken. I missed that, but within another 10 minutes, I again got a call from my manager, local IT manager, saying that yes, there is something critical has happened. We need to jump into and call. And just imagine within that first initial call, it was, as I said, early, very early morning. We were around 40 to 50 people into that call, just trying to figure out what exactly has happened. So no one was knowing exactly what has been going on, what's been wrong. And then later on, we started. If you jump into the next timelines, we just got ransomware been reported by first of our locations. Mexico was the location. I clearly remember that global locations, because they were working at that time, and they started saying these ransomware messages across their systems. And here I can clearly say that it were again a legacy Windows systems, Windows 7, Windows XP, which are still common across the production shop floors. That were the first that got hit. And around 4:30, now it was very clear that yes, it was a ransomware attack that hit our organization. And then we started drilling around what we can do for that particular thing. One of the great things, or I can say one of an saver for us during that time period, was this third party incident response team. I was lucky enough to convince my procurement team and my senior management, let's have a incident response from a third party just before 2 months of this incident. So that was the time that we got that third party finalized, because procurement teams, as you usually know, were not ready to have a third party to do an incident response. They were just saying, we were never hit by this kind of an attacks. Why would a threat attack our organizations? So it was lucky that we got this third party, and then we got them onto the board within 5 m. So if you see the timelines, within 1 and 1.5 hour, we were able to identify the root cause. We took the Mexico location system on and remote, we can say, access, and they were able to identify the exact root cause of where exactly the script was being loaded within the Active Directory, which was causing this entire ransomware attack across the organizations. So not the least, Sodinokubi was the ransomware family that we were got hit by. And by 5:30 across most of our manufacturing plants in India, we started hearing news that yes, the productions have been halted across locations where these ransomware messages are now been clearly getting seen on those screens. One of the other luckier part was that as it was a very early morning, the user systems were not that much impacted. We had around 20,000 plus users across the globe, but it was just a few of the user systems that were being impacted during this particular incident. We got the third party removed the particular AD, we can say the malware script that was being put across into our AD, and then a detailed analysis took place around a month. Let me jump into my next. So now let's see what exactly forensic analysis brought up, how exactly this particular entire attack took place. So if you can see, though it was on 29th of October, the attack when it finally took off, it was more than a month. These attackers were there within our systems. That was something that we realized when we did that entire cyber forensic analysis. So it was again, as I talked about, social engineering, and again the common cause across organizations where though we train our people are usually the weakest link that I feel that are usually been targeted. And it was again a phishing mail to one of our procurement team member who got phished and who clicked on that onto that link, and his credentials were being exposed to that particular third party attackers. And if you see the second timeline, 1 to 3rd October, the threat actors got access to our VDI environment. So within a 1 or 2 days of time, they figured out, yes, we had something on the internet, which was internet exposed, because it was again a COVID time. So something that our infrastructure team has did for easy access of people was they brought up this entire VDI environment within the cloud environment without security being knowing or security doing a kind of a thorough analysis of what exactly environment was been exposed. So these threat actors got exposed or they got into our VDI environment. They used those breach credentials of this procurement team member, and then they started doing a lateral movement across the organization. So when I say doing lateral movement across the organization, they started to figure out which are the kind of a critical servers, which are the kind of a different locations, critical systems that we have, what kind of a backups that are we running, the backup softwares I'm talking about. And this entire recon, as we easily say into any cyber forensic or we can say an cyber case, the entire recon was being done by these threat actors. So they did an entire recon, and if you see the timeline, they were able to identify the online backup servers also. So which are again critical for our production systems because yeah, in case of any ransomware attacks, when an attack happens, we try to restore our backups, and they were clearly knowing that that would also happen in our case. So they made sure that those backup servers are also being corrupted. So later on, if you see the next timeline, AD scripts were being tested on the we can say the standby Active Directory servers that were been having. And if you can clearly see one of the clear concerns that I've highlighted, no alert detection to the SOC. So I've been also been managing my SOC operations into my last organization. I can clearly say that we were having more than 100 devices sending logs to our central SIM solution, but still these attackers were been under the hood. They did not raise any red alarms, red flags that were been identified by the attackers. So they still remained silent. They tested that various script onto that backup server, and then they placed those scripts onto our common shared folders. So we again, as a common organization, had these kind of shared folders that were being shared across by the organization to do different kind of an file sharing that was being used across. An entire 1 month, I can say more than a 1 month, I can say they were within our systems between without our SOC team getting known that yes, there is something fishy, some something suspicious within our environment that needs to be taken down. And during this 24th or 28th of October, they remained silent. They identified the critical systems also on the shop floor. Though we had a kind of a small alert from one of the locations, I clearly remember that it was again from Nagpur location, again one part within Maharashtra where we had a plant. So that already reported back, but again, being in production critical systems, we were not able to do any kind of changes onto that particular system also. And finally, at the night of 29th of October, when they already identified that we had a kind of a root child AD structure within our environment, where the root AD was being infected with this malicious script that was being synced with across other locations AD at around 12 p.m. Midnight. So that was the time that the final stroke was being played, and that started getting analysis. So now this is kind of an intermission for our story. Before we jump into the next part, can we take the second poll, please? So second poll, yes, ranking the following in order of budget allocation within your ICSOT, because this is what I would be talking into my next slides. So would happy to hear your answers, guys. How do you try to prioritize your budgets across your different defenses that we need to put in place? I'll be talking about this into my next slide. After having this entire incident, how budgeting played an important role within our organization also. So we'll be happy to hear your responses before we close the poll. Can we have the responses, please? Yeah, so rightly highlighted by many here again. Risk-based vulnerability management, defensible architecture, incident response. I agree with all those, but let's see what was the kind of key takeaways from our recent one. I will just close the poll before I jump into my next slide. So now let's understand what were the key gaps, existing gaps that were been highlighted. Due to the short of time that I have, I will not jump into each and every gap that we have. But yeah, I can take those if you have any questions specific to that during our discussion phase. Let me focus on key gaps that I wanted to highlight. Uh, VDI solution. So the VDI solution that was being put in place on the cloud environment for the remote access thing, or for the employees to work across from their homes. I believe that was a kind of an also a priority for the infrastructure team, but they did not involve the security team itself. I believe that's where the collaboration plays a very vital role across organizations. If the infra team is doing something, we need to make sure those security teams are also being involved, because they did not put any differences within the VDI solution that was being deployed into the cloud environment, which was again being used by these threat actors to do a lateral movement across the entire environment. The other major thing that I would like to highlight here is MFA. Though we had MFA enabled for our admin accounts, the admins did not highlighted that, because though he received those kind of an alert, one thing that I can clearly say that the admin, one of the admin, infra admin, he was on vacation during that time period. Though he got those alerts on his mobile, he did not maybe reported back to the central team saying that yeah, it's kind of a vacation time, right? Why? But he should have bothered that why this kind of a we can say multi-factor authentication is coming for his particular login. So that was not been highlighted in the clear case. And last is the incident response plan. We talk about lot, various organizations have this, but again, if you haven't tested that, I believe this was a kind of a clear gap that we also identified. That though we say a lot that yes, we have an incident response plan in place, but what happens if your backups, online backups aren't working, right? So it's kind of an havoc situation. I cannot describe that in words, but yeah, people who would have not faced that, that was the reason into my earlier conversation also, where I clearly asked you guys to test it across. Sorry for that. Because until you test your incident response plans, you will not understand what are the kind of clear gaps that we have and what can be taken for it. Let me jump into my next slide. So yeah, key lessons learned. Again, a few things that I clearly highlighted. Incident response services, as I highlighted into my last discussion, organizations are not keen in taking this kind of an add-on services, because we do not have the in-house capabilities, right? If your organization does not have any in-house capabilities, they need to buy this kind of an capabilities from a third-party vendor who can provide this. And I believe organizations should clearly think of that. They do not have their in-house capabilities, they need to have those services already taken in place that can be helpful in this kind of a critical situation. Luckily for us, it was we had this kind of an incident response service from a vendor. Though, as I said, procurement was not that keen in interested in doing that investments along with our management teams. But yet that really helped us to drive that entire incident, to do that entire having that root cause been identified within an very short time period that really saved us a lot. The other key thing I have highlighted here is the cyber insurance. A lot of organizations they take this cyber insurance, but I would clearly say you from my past experience, cyber insurance comes with an asterisk marks, like conditions apply. So there is a lot of documentation that gets involved until the final amount was is been paid to your organization. So I know from my past organization that it took around 1.5 year for our cyber insurance team to pay back the. It was not the full amount. It was around 70 or 80% of the amount that has been paid back to the organization. So though we say cyber insurance can save us, but yeah, a lot of documentation needs to be done on the ground. Now these insurance companies have also come up with those kind of strategies that do a clear risk assessment for your organization before they quoting any values for you in terms of cyber insurance. Business continuity, one of the clear concern as I talked about. We define our business continuity, RTOs and RPOs, people who are not been familiar, recovery time objective and recovery point objective. So in our case, we clearly had a dependency on the online backups. And now imagine we do not have that online backups also, the entire things are being corrupted. So there was no BCP, though we relied on the offsite backups. But again, if you talk about those RPOs and RTOs, that were being not clearly met up. So these were the kind of key lessons learned from my past. So we'll be happy to take any questions into my next slide. Due to the short of time, sorry guys, I'm just running it out. So if you have any question, just put it across during the last slide. This is the just last second slide of my presentation. Few guiding principles to build a cyber resilience culture in manufacturing. I would say this would be kind of an key learnings or an takeaways for you guys. First one, make cyber resilience a business imperative. So when I say cyber resilience a business imperative, it needs to be there within the DNA of your organization, and not only for your management, it needs to be there from a top down. We can say top down approach. Uh, every employee of the organization should feel that yes, he is responsible for the cybersecurity of his particular system. So before clicking on any links or before taking any actions, he must really think of that. The second point here is drive cyber resilience by design. I believe this is again one of the common concerns that we say within manufacturing or OT sector is that we do not have the security controls by design. But I believe this is where the industry is changing now, where we have many of those controls being brought in from a design phase itself. And last but not the least, engage and manage the ecosystem. We need to identify clear collaboration between our stakeholders so that the key people are involved within those incident response activities. I see Jonathan being there. So just my last slide before I open it for questions. Key takeaways that I have for you guys, A, B, and C, I've just simplified it. Awareness, it really plays a critical role across organization. So make sure your employees are being aware by doing this kind of a phishing test on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, doing this budgeting activities, as I talked about budget, right? I can clearly say after this particular incident, the budget was triple X as compared to the earlier version. So management clearly thinks so, but it only needs to be presented in an into and proper manner. That what are the key concerns that or the gaps that we have. Instead of hiding it somewhere, we need to clearly put it across your management that these are the key concerns, and this is what the budget that we need to put in place, maybe in kind of a long-term strategy, 1 year or 3 years kind of a thing, and then you have the right buy-in from your management. So last but not the least, collaboration. As I said, when this kind of an incident happens, it's a really chaos on the shop floors. The until you have a properly tested BCP, I would say that really plays a major role. And then you need to have this collaboration across IT/OT people also, because IT people may be working on this incident response activities, but on the shop floor, when you're planning to bring back your operations back to normal, it's not that easy because everyone has their own priorities. They would say that yes, make my servers up first, and these are the kind of key learnings from our last incident also. So I will leave it to you guys if you have any questions. I believe that's the last slide before I open it for questions. Hope I was before time, Jonathan. I
Oh,
just took I just took-
you were perfect. Perfect. You did it. It was a brilliant session. I'm amazed at how much information you squeezed into to that
yeah.
time. It was excellent. We do have time for one or two questions. and there are a few in here. Um, um, some of them are more sort of expansive than others, but here's one with regards to how to ensure role-based access to legacy systems in a brownfield project. I think you touched on that in
Yeah.
one of the stories.
Let me, yeah, let me give a clear example. You need to have separate AD within your OT shop floors. I believe that is
Mhm.
something very keen because until you have an Active Directory, you cannot have this role-based access. And again, when I talk about an Active Directory, you also need to make sure that your shop floor people know that if that AD does not function properly, maybe in kind of an outage, at least he should be have those kind of a skill set also that he is aware that what needs to be done. So separation of an Active Directory within your shop floor is key important. If you haven't planned that, I would say put it in your plans, maybe for a short term and a long term strategy. That yes, we can have a segregation of AD. And also the key concern that I highlighted, you need to also decide how these AD is being structured. It should be not like a root and child across, because I believe that was also the concern in your last organization, where if the root has been getting infected, it will have a clear infection on your child ADs. So make sure your AD has been planned into that particular right strategies before putting into place.
Yeah, I think you actually answered three questions with the one answer. Because there are a few questions that came in with AD, and we often see that as a best practice to definitely separate the ADs between the rest of the enterprise and the OT. It's something that not everybody gets budget to do,
Agree.
more often than we um like to see. But definitely something that one of those sort of basic hygiene steps that companies can take. I think we have, no, we're out of time. So let me just thank you. Amazing, amazing session. Really, really brilliant. So much information. I'm going to have to come back and look at that recording a couple of times. So really appreciate it. I think so did the people on the session from what I see from the chats coming in. So again, thank you very much.